Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard from PewterReport.com. Scott Reynolds is here with me, also from PewterReport.com. The rest of the PewterReport.com crew will be stopping in from time to time today on the show. It's going to be a great show. Bittersweet is kind of the word of the day going around in Tampa Bay right now, Scott, because Bruce Arians is stepping down as head coach, retiring, sailing off into the sunset. Lots of conversation we'll have about that. Todd Bowles is the new head coach in Tampa Bay. We thought we might get a week maybe where there wasn't any major breaking news.
Not in this market. Down. Hell no. No vacation for you.
It's incredible, Scott. The ride of the last couple of years in Tampa Bay has been just completely nonstop, full of twists and turns.
Yeah.
On, off the field, player acquisitions, coaches. It's been absolutely crazy. And this one caught a lot of people by surprise. What were your initial thoughts? You and I were actually on the phone when this happened, like when this broke, and we were kind of talking about this might be coming. And then literally it was like, boom, it's out. And we were just like, oh, let's go write the stories. It was kind of a crazy night.
A text from the PR staff about 8 or so o'clock last night. Maybe it was before 8. And they said, just wanted to give you a heads up that there will be some news tonight. Can't go into any specifics. And I called you and I said, Bruce Arians is retiring. I mean,
we were like,
that's what it was.
We were like, okay, what's the reason? That was our real, we were trying to figure out how to write it because we thought we had an inkling. And honestly, he left the owners' meetings with a personal reason, and we knew something was happening.
Yeah, this has been brewing for a long time.
Right, but we just weren't totally sure what it all was going to be specifically or how. And honestly, Scott, I know people were stunned, and people especially not close to the organization that don't know Bruce and don't know the Bucs culture, which is most people that aren't around here because they don't get the national attention that they should. Even with Brady, people haven't paid attention to the actual culture of the organization, I think, very well. That's on us to kind of relay that. And I think that those people who weren't as close maybe were more shocked. But as soon as you and I kind of had a minute to reflect on it and to think about it, it was kind of like, this really makes perfect sense. This is exactly what Bruce Arians said he's about his entire career. And this is really a complete, it's like a fairy tale ending for him. A lot of people want to win the Super Bowl. I wrote a column about it this morning.
He's already done that.
A lot of coaches want to win. Yeah, he's already done that. They want to win it in their last year, go out on top. But to him, this is going out on top. This is what that looks like for him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is listen, there are two schools of thought, right? There is he was forced out by Tom Brady, right? Or this was I wanted to go out this way, and Brady coming back just kind of, helped me get to that point.
Right.
At the end of the day, whatever really happened, and the only people that are really going to know whatever happened are Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, Jason Light, and the Glazers. Because those are the people that, and this is true, were in on this going back to the start of free agency. When Tom came back, he was made aware of the fact that Bruce was contemplating this, right? You can't spring it on Tom Brady. Oh, you're coming back to play for me, but I'm not going to be here, right? Like this is not a spur of the moment thing for Bruce Arians. This is something he has been thinking about for a long time. The only people that knew about this were Bruce Arians, Jason Light, the Glazers, and Tom Brady. And, Matt and I even talked about how uncomfortable Joe Glaser was when we asked him the question about, did you know Tom's coming back at Manchester United? He's like, we didn't have any discussions or conversations.
Well, it was that night. And Joel always looks uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just my opinion.
But they knew.
This morning watching the presser, I was like,
yes,
he doesn't. He's like kind of always smiling, but
I know
there's nothing really funny. It's just unique.
Right. Yeah.
His mannerisms are
But this has been in the works. And listen, whatever school of thought you're in, whether it's, if you believe Bruce Arians, everything that comes out of his mouth is gospel. If you believe Mike Florio, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, this is the decision. And this is the decision that everybody is at peace with. Bruce Arians is at peace with this because it's his decision. Tom Brady's at peace with this. He was at the press conference today supporting Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians. Todd Bowles loves this decision. Obviously, he's a head coach. Jason Light has had a relationship with Todd Bowles dating back to 2013 in Arizona. And the Glazers, they just made him the highest paid defensive coordinator after the Super Bowl, right? So everybody's on board with this decision. So whoever suggested it, or whether it was an original thought by Bruce, It doesn't matter because here we are. Everybody's on board. Everybody wants to see this succeed. And I really think they got the right guy for the job. You know, I wrote a column that a couple of Fab Fives ago. The next head coach is going to be the 4th black head coach in Tampa Bay. And that's exactly what happened. And that was part of the plan by Bruce Arians. If you've been a longtime Pewter Report reader, you've known for years that the successor was going to be Todd Bowles, not Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles.
Right.
My sentimental favorite is Harold Goodwin. I still think Goody's going to be a great head coach, but I've got no problems with this. The reason why is because he is a defensive-minded coach, John. That's why.
Yeah, I was going to say this is up your alley.
This is up my alley, yeah. But more so. So let's get to the real reasoning of why Bowles as opposed to Leftwich. A couple of things. Todd Bowles has been with Bruce Arians longer, dating back to Temple. There's that trust. There's that relationship. And the thing with Bowles is he's been there and done that, so he's got that head coaching opportunity before, and he knows what to do and what not to do. If you look at his record in New York, he knows about a lot of what not to do. Leftwich is going to get a head coaching job probably next year. It's just coming, right? Another year with Brady, and it's I feel that's going to happen. I think Arians knows it's going to happen too. But the thing with Todd Bowles is he is a savant. I mean, smart, not just football IQ, just a cerebral guy.
Very intelligent human.
Very intelligent human being. And I'm not saying that Byron Leftwich is not. All right. It's no slight on Leftwich. It's just, this is the difference between a Hall of Fame player and a Pro Bowl player, right? Like there's a difference, right? You got to have a lot of Pro Bowls to become a Hall of Famer.
Well, I think it's experience too, right? I mean, this is
no doubt.
Clearly, it's a roster that needs someone to step in that wasn't going to be first time at all of this now. And I think that was really important. Plus, Bowles has been groomed for this. Like you said, Leftwich is going to get other opportunities. I wrote about this today, Scott, and I've told you about it. But, I ask a lot of people around the league when the head coaching interviews, that during that time of the year, I'm kind of always coming on here and, I hear this. You hear all the Tampa Bay stuff. I talk to people all around the other teams because they don't care about telling me stuff because I cover the Bucs. So it doesn't matter. But I come on here and give the Nuggets kind of what I hear. And it was a common refrain amongst people who are dialed into the league that Bowles got head coach interviews, and there are teams that respect him. He's respected around the league. But because everybody is trending to these young offensive-minded hires, and then some of these, and obviously that's worked in a lot of cases. I'm not knocking that at all. If anybody follows me knows I've applauded a lot of those approaches. But there was a general sentiment that this was, I think he got 4 interviews this year, wasn't really considered a finalist for any of them, didn't really get a ton of energy or steam picked up in any of them.
He's not going to wow anybody over Zoom.
The common sentiment amongst multiple people that I talked to was that this could be the last year where he gets a lot of interviews or maybe gets one extra, but it's the interest and the opportunities were running lower on him because he's somebody that you're higher on once you've had a chance to get to know him. And you heard that from everybody today, but off first impression, he might not wow you like some of the younger coaches that are out there that are coming in, fresh ideas and all this. He's going to do what he's done and what's worked for him for years in terms of leadership. And I don't know that every organization in the NFL looks for that right now. And because of that, and guess what? If I know that, Bruce knew that. And Bruce knew that this was an opportunity for Todd, maybe his only opportunity he'll ever have again.
There's no doubt he did him a favor.
Yes, not just a situation, but a
deserved favor. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
He feels like Bowles is genuinely qualified and the best person for this job. He's clearly qualified. Is he the best person for the job? We're going to talk more about that probably as this show goes on today and save some of my thoughts on that for the end. But qualification, absolutely. And especially this year, Scott, I personally don't think that it changes that much. Long term, I agree. There's a lot of questions with this. There's a lot of questions about how this will work. This year, though, this is such an established culture. It's an established coaching staff. There's been no turnover, really, other than losing Mike Caldwell. This is just a group that's been together. They know each other. The players know each other. There's Brady and Leftwich. There's Bowles. There's Rodgers and Foote. Bowles is going to keep calling the defense. Leftwich is going to keep calling the offense. The biggest changes will be in-game management, but how will Bowles handle those things? That'll be something that we critique. But it's not like Arians was perfect at all of that either, or any head coach, for example, to be honest, is perfect. There's certainly some that are worse than others, but that's going to be the stuff that really measures Bowles. In my opinion, I don't know how much change, and I could be wrong, but right now, I don't know. For 2022, I don't know how much it changes. Long term, there's a lot of questions for sure. The Bulls is going to have, we're going to evaluate him by, but 2022, I think that it doesn't change a whole lot on the field for the Bucs in 2022.
And I think that's what the Glazers and Jason Light are most excited about. And that's what Tom Brady's most excited about. He's coming back to a familiar situation, right? I mean, Brady looks around the landscape of the NFC and says, I'm in the right conference, right? like the path to the Super Bowl is not as steep as it is in the other conference, right? So I agree. I agree with everything you said. And we kind of asked Bowles, well, what is your way? And he said, which was kind of funny. And this is the funny thing that we'll let you in on out there in Pewter People land. Todd Bowles, we get him for 8 to 12 minutes once a week during the season. And he's very stoic and dry, and he just kind of talks like this. And he's very vanilla. He's very plain. He doesn't want to give you a whole bunch. But the funny thing is, in 2019, the last time we were in the Bucs locker room, thankfully this year, with COVID being over or as over as possible, we'll be back in there. But the thing the players would tell me in 2019 is like, oh man, I would run through a wall for Todd Bowles. He's the funniest guy. He's cracking us up in meetings. And I'm like, what?
And you got a taste of that today, didn't you?
We
did. It was incredible.
Yes,
he was a totally different person.
Totally different person. And the thing that Jason Light said, and I quote, is he says, the one thing that you guys in the media haven't really seen so much is that personality come through. Is that we've seen it. But the thing about Bowles is he's like the biggest shit talker. And that's a quote from Jason Light. He is the biggest shit talker out there in the field. He said that
too.
Yeah, Arians said that, and he said it.
Bowles.
So we are going to see more of that personality, and we are going to really have a closer look at why these players love playing for Todd Bowles so much. I know one thing that Buccaneer fans want to get an answer about. He was asked today after the press conference. They brought Bowles in to talk to the reporters, the beat writers in the media room, and Bowles comes in and he was asked a couple questions in. We softball him a little bit. Then he was asked about, okay, what's up with the Rams call? Like what happened about that? And
I actually forgot he has not been available to us since that play. I mean, he wasn't available after that.
You know what he said? We blew it. We blew it. And he said, listen, it's one of those things that when it's called right and it's executed right, it's a great play. Any play, it's a great play. But when it's called wrong or not executed right, it doesn't work. And then you wish you called something different or executed it better or whatever. And the one thing Bowles said, actually said two things that were kind of poignant. First was that was one play, but there were other plays, especially in the first half, that he thought were more detrimental. Remember, I think the Rams had a 21, 27, 24-3 lead at halftime. I mean, they did a lot of damage in the first half against the Bucs defense. And the Bucs offense wasn't helping out either. They had a field goal on the board at halftime. So Bowles pointed that out. The other thing he said was when you look at that particular game, it sticks with you, right? You have that sour taste in your mouth, and we have something to prove this year. And the crazy thing is that call, John, actually led to Todd Bowles being the head coach here. It's crazy to think about. But if that call isn't made, if the Buccaneers do happen to come back and win, they beat the 49ers at home the next week. They're in the Super Bowl. They actually beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl. And Todd Bowles probably is coaching somewhere else.
Yeah, as a Super Bowl winner, back-to-back.
As a Super Bowl winner, yeah.
It changes things for NFL teams. You're right.
Yeah, it's crazy to think.
It is funny that could be. Yeah.
That call led to him being here in Tampa as the head coach.
And honestly, long-term, we will see how that unfolds because, like I said, there are deserved recognitions of his qualifications in a lot of ways and deserved question marks as well. Not really so much from his time with the Jets. His defenses were honestly good with the Jets, even when he didn't have that great of talent. Like, his defenses have never been bad. Like, you could argue like that some things could been better, but obviously injury riddled last season. He's a risk taker. That's what he is, and he's going to live and die by the sword, no question about it. You're always going to have your squabbles with that and every other quarter.
That was another point he made, John, and I appreciate you bringing that up because he said if you go back to the play before, they were playing some zone, and Sean Murphy-Bunting slipped and fell down.
Yes.
Cooper Kupp made a big play, got out of bounds. Mike Edwards couldn't make the tackle, and so you got one play, right? You're on to the next play. And Todd said, if I had called zone and Matthew Stafford drives down the field, kicks a field goal and win, what's the narrative going to be? Why didn't you blitz him? That's what you do. You're a blitzer. Why didn't you blitz him? So listen, I've said this before on radio. I think I've said it here on the podcast. I'll say it again. You can be as pissed off as you want about Todd Bowles' call. Tom Brady could be pissed off about it, right? Bruce Arians could be. The media, the fans, whoever. You can be mad about that call and the outcome of that play, that big shot to Cooper Kupp. Nobody is more upset about it, nor will be more upset about it than Todd Bowles.
True. Yep. No question about it. I mean, that's exactly how Bowles' mindset will work. And there's no doubt about that. Now, will he blitz again? Maybe, but like he's definitely upset about the way that it turned out, the communication, whatever it was, for sure. Now, nobody gets boiled down to one call. I've said this a million times before. Yep. You have to be able to be extremely critical of that call and recognize still that Bowles is a top 10 defensive coordinator in the NFL.
Exactly.
Like you can't conflate the two. Like it can't be because he made a bad call, he should be fired. Like that's the kind of stuff we have to get away from. I talk about that all the time. Toby, imagine being a reporter / beat writer for any other organization in the NFL the last 3 years. No way it's as eventful as following Tampa. People know this by now, probably. I started a month before Brady signed.
That's right.
So basically my entire time at Pewter Report has been a complete whirlwind of this kind of stuff where I'm watching.
It's Hurricane John. That's what
I'm watching draft prospects last night, and you call me, and 5 minutes later, Bruce Arians is retired, and it's like scramble mode for the next 3 hours, writing stories and get news, and it's a blast, no question about it.
Right.
But also, it's amazing to me how little is understood about the culture in Tampa Bay, like nationally and all these other places. And it honestly, though, it made me think I was writing this story about Arians today that's up on Pewter Report. It made me think about like, what teams' cultures do I feel like are well understood outside of like New England? I think people have a pretty good grasp of, because 20 years dominance and a very, Belichick's attitude with the media, so many players kind of being honest about their experience in New England. It's kind of like prison, but also like you do have a lot of success, but it's, just a lot of the common refrains and stories. But even I thought about it, even a place like Pittsburgh, I'm a Pittsburgh guy and a Steelers guy. And I just think the general lack of understanding of who Mike Tomlin is as a coach, when you hear like national people talk about him, the good and the bad, like people don't talk about the bad things about him, but they think that the good things about him are like not like the good things that they give him credit for, like not really his strengths. Like I just feel like how much is misunderstood in those circles. And it really just brought me back to the point, Scott, where like it is just so important to listen to local media and beat reporters like on their teams that they cover. And obviously I come from a background that is a little bit more national, like in terms of covering the draft and having to study every team and NFL tape for every team for so many years that I do think I can speak a little bit more to every team. But even the further I get from that, the more I go to people in situations that are close to the team and rely on them. And it's amazing the depth of information you get from people who are dialed in on situations that you don't get if you talk to people nationally. Like they have to talk nationally.
Right.
And they have to create buzz, and they have to basically outclick local media. And so they do
what they have
to do to seem knowledgeable on topics. But
it's outclick.
It's just not, there's no comparison, Scott, between like what local media know. And I just think that's really important. And like people who want to understand the Bucs culture and how strong it is, watch that presser today. Like see Glaser talk, see Jason Light talk, see the emotion, see Bruce Arians and listen to what he says and the way that he says it and how honest and direct he is about being self-depreciating, being honest about the opportunity for other people, the closeness of that staff, how far back they go with Bowles playing for him. Like the memory that he has of those specific situations, like there's a closeness there that is not, it just doesn't happen in the NFL.
That's right. It is special.
I mean, you've covered the Bucs for how long, Scott? There's nothing like this that's comparable in NFL circles in terms of how close this staff is.
I would say the closest was the Dungy staff, right? That's Herm Edwards, that's Rod Marinelli, Lovie Smith,
great
Joe Barry eventually, Mike Tomlin, Clyde Christensen was on that staff, as a tight ends coach, Mike Shula.
But Arians and half these dudes go back like 40 years.
That's what I was going to say. But as close as that was, right? That was close.
Yeah.
What Arians has going on is family.
Yeah.
It's legitimate family, right? Yeah. It's Temple roots. It's back in there. So it's different, right? It's special. And you know what? That's the thing too. Listen, we talk about being emotional, right? I got to say, I'm an independent reporter, and we try to be as objective as possible. And the reason why I say that, I don't say I'm a Buccaneer fan, because there's the right time to call for a head coach to be fired, right? And fans, when things don't go their way right away, fire this guy. I mean, I've even seen on Twitter this year, Jason Light needs to be fired. What has Jason Light done that where he deserves to be fired? That's ridiculous. That's asinine. That's a fan talking, and you just can't do that when you're a reporter. But it's like watching Bruce Arians up there today, and you see the emotion from him. That really got him. When Joel Glaser said, "You're going in the Ring of Honor," that was a surprise. That really got Bruce. And he and I talked about that afterwards. Listen, I'll say this just real quick, as I got to run. I know Matt Matera is getting ready to come on here too. You get to know these people, right? And not nearly as much with COVID, right? Because we were basically, banned from the facility and all that type of stuff. Today was the first day I was at One Buccaneer Place at the Advent Health Training Center in the media room since 2019. Right. Okay. There's a little bit of an emotional moment for me walking back in there. And
an emotional day period, just with
an emotional day period. And the thing is, what you don't understand really is, we're not a subscription website. We're not going to be, right? We're going to be free for all. That's how it is. Right. You have to put up with Celsius. We're going to do a Celsius spot in just a minute here. Okay. You have to put up with Manscaped, and you got to put up with Immuni, and we hope that you check out these companies and give them your business, because they're the lifeblood. They allow us to present this information to you guys. When the world shut down, okay, our website kept going. We had to take massive pay cuts. Okay. We lost about 2/3 of our advertising revenue in 2020,
right? Because
of the COVID lockdowns. We're going to businesses. Hey, we can't afford to send you our advertising checks because we're closed, right? So this is just some real stuff. I'm not saying that we were close to folding or shutting down. That wasn't the case. Our company, like a lot of companies out there across the country, were in dire straits. John, we couldn't bring you aboard when we wanted to because of that. You know that. And that's as deep as I'm going to get into it. But there's a lot of things that we had to pause, hit the brakes on, even drive the car in reverse a little bit. Okay. You guys out there with your super chats, with your donations, you don't know how much that helped us. But the thing is, and this is where we can't control it. We're the storytellers. We don't throw touchdowns or make tackles or get sacks, although I want to get sacks. I'm a defensive guy. But Bruce Arians coming to Tampa after watching Raheem Morris, after watching Lovie Smith, or Greg Schiano, Lovie Smith, Dirk Cutter, after that 12 years of being in the desert without any water, Bruce Arians brought the rain, baby. And we at Pewter Report needed the rain. And so when he's stepping down, I'm like, we don't control the wins and losses. We just report on it. But the fact that the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl when they did, I'm not going to say it saved Pewter Report, but it helped a lot.
Sure.
It brought a lot of people to the table that our numbers have gone through. We've doubled our traffic in 2 years, doubled it.
Yeah.
Because of the great Buccaneer fans out there like you guys that support us. But because you show up, because of Bruce Arians and what he brought to Tampa and what he built, and he's passing on to Todd Bowles and getting Tom Brady, all of that had a major impact on us, myself, John, Matt, Allie, Hugh, the entire Pewter Report staff, Cliff Welch, our photographer. It was massive. So to watch Bruce get emotional up there, I don't get emotional at press conferences. I got emotional because
I was.
He means a lot. John, I thought your article, your column was spot on today. I'm glad he's going in the Bucs Ring of Honor. It crosses off one thing I have to write about in the Fab Five because I have to campaign for it. It's going to happen. But this is a special guy that gave us 3 very special years. And John, I got the feeling that the specialness is not over yet. I think it's going to carry on with Todd Bowles. I really, really do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's extremely well said, and especially you're talking about the Bucs fans and the way things have changed and the change that Arians brought. Again, like culture, people talk about the game day management stuff, and I think that all that stuff's important. But the number one responsibility of a head coach, in my opinion, is culture, and that means
Yes.
the way you treat people, because the way
Yep.
you treat people is going to be how they treat other people. And if that culture is strong, the chances of building a winner are just way higher. I mean, yeah, you got to
Yeah.
get the football stuff right, but a lot of these dudes know football. There are
Yeah.
varying degrees, certainly in terms of decision making and scheme, but a lot of these dudes know football. You have to get
Yeah.
talent, you have to know football, but not very many people can create a good culture. You see all
Yeah.
the coaches that go places and they can't create a good culture and they can't hire a good staff, and it
Yep.
kills them. They can't.
And
They
John,
might know football great on a whiteboard, but
right?
they can't do those things.
And it's a good culture when you see it in the community, when you see kids wearing Buccaneer jerseys and you see the car flags, right? You're proud to be a Buccaneer fan because you're winning, and you're winning the right way. You're winning in a fun way. You're winning in an ass-kicking, no risk it, no biscuit way, right? It's fun to be a Buccaneer fan, right? Because you're doing it the right way. And to me, that's what Joe Glaser, Matt, we're bringing on Matt Materi here from Pewter Report. That's really what Joe Glaser was talking about. And, you wrote an article about that as well, about how it's not just, and at the time, Joe was talking about Brady, but that was because he was keeping a secret. It was really Brady and Arians, right? But to have that impact, to grow the fan base, some of it's Tom Brady, but as John said, it's the culture, right?
That's Scott. That's absolutely right. And hello, John, as well too. That's
Hello,
like one of the first. That's one of the first things that Joel Glazer spoke about when we were at the NFL owners meetings. That sure, everyone loves winning, and that's the best feeling. But outside of that, he said, growing the Bucs community, growing the fan base. This is what I live for. This is like why I got into football. I became a fan of the sport because of this.
Yep.
And like, this is what gets me going. This is what gets me moving. So that was, completely the first thing that you notice and you see now, especially that the team is winning, and just the overall look of today. It had that feeling of what's Dr. Seuss's quote, like, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Like, there's just so much appreciation in that room. I mean, you could just see from all the coaches that were there, Tom Brady sitting in the front row, some of the other players that were there. Not everyone had to be in the building for that. Okay. It's the offseason. Players are in different states. Coaches are in different areas. And they all went just to show support for both Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles. So I think you saw a lot of love and admiration, and there was many classic Bruce moments. I think there was a lot of great, and we could talk further about this, a lot of great stuff with Todd Bowles that I've been trying to tell people what you see from Todd Bowles. Like, he's a bit of a different guy when he's not on camera. Like, he's very funny. He's got a very dry sense of humor. It's sarcastic. And you saw a lot of that today. I think you saw a lot of that in both his press conference in big auditorium and his private interview with the media in the other room. So I thought it was a lot of great things that you saw today from the Bucs facility.
I agree. Speaking of media, we would be remiss if we didn't do our Celsius plug. I'm gonna let you guys handle that.
Sure.
I throw up this amazing Celsius graphic that has all these amazing flavors. I had the amazing flavor of Fuji apple pear today. That's what I had, and it got me going. So, John, I'm going to let you take it away. We're going to bring in JC Allen after this message, sponsored by our friends at Celsius. They are the official sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast and the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any better than them. I mean, the amount of flavors that they have with no sugar is truly incredible. I'm rocking the peach vibe, as I have been. It's been a peach vibe kind of week for me, and I've needed it, especially after late night last night for sure. And look at the different flavors that they have, though. Got the wild berry, the strawberry guava, the Fuji apple pear, orange, orangesicle, blueberry pomegranate, watermelon. There's so many good flavors. You can check them all at Celsius.com. Use the store locator. Find out where they sell Celsius near you. Also, you can go click on the banner ads at PewterReport.com, do the Amazon subscribe and save option, get Celsius coming to you with regularity as well. The best energy drink out there. Great taste, gives you the boost you need without the crash and without the sugar you get from other energy drinks. Truly is a game changer.
I just walked in the door. And I instantly cracked open a Celsius.
Instantly.
Can was a little warm, so I got it on ice. But yeah,
that's right. JC Allen on the show as well. JC, what's up, sir? How is everything going down at the Advent Health Training Center?
It was great. And like, Scott said, it was, I haven't been covering the team and I haven't been as long as him, but you could definitely, feel the emotion in the room. Yeah. And I really think that Todd Bowles being the head coach for this season, at least, the Bucs are in good hands. And I don't think there's going to be much of a drop off, if any drop off at all. Talking to him in the media scrum, in the media room, and he's he made it clear he's the head coach, and he's going to do what he wants to do. But at the same part, there's so much trust between these coaches because, as Scott just said, it's a family, right? And he trusts, Byron and Brady to put the right game plan. He trusts Rodgers and Foot. And he mentioned that, Rodgers is the guy who does great with the front seven. Foot's the guy who does a great job with the back seven. So when they're doing split fields against the running attack and then in the passing game, he trusts those guys completely. And that's, I think, it stems from Bruce's motto, trust, loyalty, and respect. And that goes throughout this whole entire coaching staff. Now, coming up the next couple of years, it might be a little different, but for this year, I think it's great. And, they signed Ryan Griffin back too right now. So
I was going to say, I just saw that.
So,
Ryan Griffin,
we're moving now. I mean,
going for year 8. I don't know if this means Blaine isn't back, but the offseason is.
I think Scott's not on here for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, when does the narrative start that Ryan Griffin wanted Bruce Arians
Scott
out?
was already getting emotional a couple of minutes ago when he just spoke about that. I think we would have actually legitimately seen tears because that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
I just think it's clear that Ryan Griffin was waiting to re-sign until after Bruce Arians stepped aside.
There.
And then at that point, he wasn't gonna. He was there to enjoy it. He said, I hate Bruce too. Like I won't re-sign with this team.
Ryan Griffin will have a longer career than Tom Brady. Brady's playing till he's 45. I think Ryan Griffin legitimately might be able to play until like 51. Just the way he's able to stay
Bucs quarterback.
Yeah, the way he's able to just stay on this Bucs roster is.
We got Josh Johnson just played for literally half the league, and then you've got Ryan Griffin who's played here for 28 years, just backing up the third string practice squad quarterback every year.
Yeah, it is truly remarkable. I got to get on my soapbox about one thing because I think I wrote about this today, in that column that I did, but I think I hate that the fact that there are some places, not all places, not even most places, I would say. Shout out Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports. He did an awesome job with his column about Bruce Arians and the reality of the situation, as well as Peter King's article that broke the news. Thought that was really well done as well. But there are not a lot of people doing what Bruce Arians is doing right now. In fact, it's basically unheard of in sports. And I just think it deserves a lot of commendation for a couple reasons. Not just because Bruce is this perfect, infallible person that completely understands the plight of racism in America or the plight of inclusivity or all of those things, diverse hiring practices, that he just uniquely gets that on a level that most white people don't understand. I don't even think it's that per se, although hopefully those things are true and his actions have certainly borne out that those things are true and that he does have a great understanding of those things. But I think more than anything, it's the fact that his actions are literally showing that he understands these things. When Bruce is asked about these things, verbally to comment, because he has been such a trailblazer for diversity and inclusivity in the NFL with hiring women and hiring people of color, he has not gone on these long rants about it. He is not on social media posting these things, that's not what he does. He will address it. He will mention it. He will give a couple quick lines about it, but he is not getting on a soapbox and talking about these issues and trying to convince everybody how much he cares. He'll say something and he'll respond to questions, but more than anything, he is saying, you know what? I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have 12 coaches of color on my staff. I'm going to have 3 coordinators who are black. I'm going to have an assistant head coach who is black. Those are the people in position behind me to succeed me. That's what I'm going to be about. That's what he's been about his entire career, is doing those things and living that way. And when you look around people on Twitter, like Robert Mathis talking about allyship, and this is what it looks like from white leaders and people in positions of authority. This is exactly what's happening, what needs to be happening in positions of leadership across our country, not just in football, but in positions of leadership. And Bruce is one of the few people that is actually living that out. That deserves all the commendation in the world for what he's doing. And what doesn't deserve to happen is for people to get on their box and talk about, that are in the media, that have a responsibility to report news and facts and real things, that are instead talking about some made-up friction relationship between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. Brady has been more effusive in his praise of Bruce Arians than he has ever been for Bill Belichick. And I'm not talking about that he hated Bill Belichick. I'm not on any of that at all. Like, he never tried to force Bill out, nothing like that. He went there for 20 years with Bill, and it was a relationship that I'm sure, obviously, they've said had friction at times, no question about it. But he respected the heck out of him. And first of all, it's just not even Brady's style. It's just never been his style. It shows a complete lack of understanding for people on who Tom Brady is as a person. Like, he's been in the league for forever. We know who he is. We know what he does. This is not what he does. Like, this is not who he is. It's never been who he is. It's not about who he is now. It's just not. Makes no sense. Second, Bruce Arians seems like the kind of guy to y'all that is going to accept getting pushed out. Bruce Arians, like, he's just gonna stay with the organization. Right? Come on, this dude doesn't need this job. Like,
that's like the ultimate
stand up there, like, fighting back emotion over the organization that just pushed him out of his dream job and a chance.
I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. That would be the ultimate cuck move to just like stay in the organization. Like,
that people think these things.
So
Brady's in the front row laughing with Arians and all this stuff.
Right, exactly.
Along.
Again, everyone watching here, or if you're listening to the podcast later, check out our Pewter Report social media. We posted a great video of when Bruce was asked about, the quote unquote rift about him and Brady, and he's like, "I'm trying to get you on the golf course," and he like keeps yelling about that. And I panned the camera over to Tom Brady, and he's nodding his head in agreement with everything that Bruce Arians was saying, which was essentially, we have a great relationship. We've worked together, and things have really been so great. But yeah, to your point with everything you're talking about, John, Bruce gets a lot of eyes on him, but he doesn't have that, like, he's not trying to get attention. He just answers.
Look at me guy.
Yeah, he doesn't do the look at me. He just answers things unapologetically the way that he does. Right. So like when he hires an all black coaching staff for coordinators, he's just like, yeah, they were the best guys for the job. Yeah. He doesn't like really think twice about that. And that's one of the other things I love too, just with all the news that broke last night is, as you mentioned, Robert Mathis and Chandler Jones, and you saw Ndamukong Suh today and a bunch of current Bucs players. The amount of just love and admiration that current and former players were showing for both Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians, I think was like totally awesome. And it just speaks to the type of guys that they are. And then one last thing too, you said it about Bruce, but I think it resonates throughout the whole organization. I think it resonates why Bruce and guys like Jason Light formed such a great relationship. And Jason was able to get Bruce here in the building in the first place. I was asking Jason today after everyone else spoke, and I was pretty much just asking him his confidence in the entire coaching staff, because Todd and Bruce were saying that, we have so many great assistant coaches that, there could be 5 to 7 future head coaches on this current staff right now. And so I asked Jason, like, you must be through the roof, et cetera, et cetera. And he answered it, and then he went out of his own way. Like, this wasn't even exactly what I was asking, but he went out of his own way to be like, these guys are all great. And like, we didn't just make them coordinators because they are black. We made them coordinators because they are terrific at their job and what they do. And for Jason to like go out and say that and just had it on the mind, it just shows that, this organization, they do what's best for the team. And obviously they have made so many strides and leaps and bounds for black coaches, for women getting into the league, and minorities in general, just putting people in greater positions and opportunities to better themselves. So I think everyone deserves, tons of praise for how everything has went on.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing. Talking to Joel Glaser after they spoke too is one of the decisions that played into them putting him in the Ring of Honor right away. He pretty much was like, for everything that he's done for the franchise, what he represents, the trendsetter, the leader in the National Football League, opening doors. He's everything you just check for a person to go in that Ring of Honor. And, Glaser thinks that should be like the first step. He thinks that Joel Glaser thinks he should be in the Hall of Fame for everything he's done for the league too. And that's been echoed, with PR and throughout, media. If you look around, I mean, everyone's saying it. For the Hall of Fame, it's not just about what you do as a head coach. And obviously we know he's a Super Bowl winner, but what he's done and the doors he's opened, and just being so diverse with his staff and welcoming and everything. He's just
and JC, not to cut you off, but again, that's Bruce being Bruce, because he said today, I don't give a shit about the Hall of Fame. That's just him. That's just him being him.
Yeah, and he's a straight shooter. That's what he thinks. Like, to him, it just doesn't matter compared to people. And he has told us this every step of the way. And I know most people actually really like Bruce Arians, and the NFL people like him. Fans are way more delusional on Twitter, like, and sometimes not often, but sometimes in the comments, like, just in terms of how they talk about coaches in general, like the role that they feel like coaches have, especially when there's a great player on their team. It's like that coach is both cannot be good at their job. One has to be an idiot. The other one has to be good. We're not a both and
Bruce Belichick.
for the most part, like, unfortunately, like, so it has to be one or the other. When in reality, it just isn't. And I think that today reflected that, and the commentary from some people have reflected that. But I do think that, like, seeing this happen and play out the way that it, for anybody who cares about logic and like reality, has clearly played out. It just is it's kind of a cool situation. To be honest, the NFL, like most organizations and like most things in our world, is pretty broken in a lot of the way that they do things. But man, this was kind of it was just cool. Like, it's just a neat story. It's a neat opportunity. It's a sign of things that are done the right way by, I genuinely believe, one of the best run organizations in the NFL. I don't say that lightly. I'm a pretty critical person, always have been in my year covering the league, but being able to cover the Bucs up close like this and see that way that they handle all these things, I just think they're really our first-class organization. And today was a great example of that. The pressers were a great example of that. The humor, just the comfortability, everybody's really
It was like
happy.
going to
awesome.
Going to a concert, seeing one of your favorite bands, and they play all the hits, and like everything landed. Like,
it's just like
Bruce going up there, and like thanking everyone, and then being like, yeah, I don't know the shit that I'm gonna do in my new role, but like, I hope it goes well.
Yeah, and then Mike dropping Florio.
I love the media. Everyone out there, national, and write whatever you want, okay, Florio?
Yeah, that was great. And Bowles too was very, very funny, where he's like, Bruce drinks and smokes. I don't drink or smoke. I can't wear a Kangol. I can't be Bruce. We were probably great for each other because we were never in each other's ways. And he's like, all right, Bruce is the cool guy. I'll be chill. And then he's like, but Tom Brady's chill. So like, I got to find another role on this team. Like, I thought Todd Bowles was so great. And one last thing too, because I had on my mind the rift between Arians, or the alleged rift between Arians and Brady, because clearly there is not one. I think some people just make predictions, and they want that prediction to be so true so badly that they just refuse to like believe anything else, and will take any type of route to be like, see, like, there's a connection here, when there's really not. People just, they make a prediction, they're wrong, but they want to believe it so much that they just keep hammering that nail until someone. It
was shut down by nearly everybody there too. Like Joel Glaser said, nothing surprised me. We live in a Twitter, Instagram, social media world.
Yeah.
And then in the private media room with
Bowles,
Todd Bowles,
he was basically like, this stuff just never happened.
Yeah,
sorry,
he's like, listen, I'm everywhere. I know everyone who's here. I know where you sit. I know where you stand. I know where you write your articles.
Yeah.
I know what's happening on both fields at the same time. And I have never seen anything that would lead me to believe that there was a rift. So it's just media being media.
I mean, people,
that aren't dialed in and in tune to it.
And people are ultimately just going to believe whatever they feel like believing. Unfortunately, it's a problem with our media. It's a problem with the culture just in general, is that we don't care about facts or evidence or any of those things. We just care about narratives, and we chase them. Not everybody, obviously, not calling everybody, but it's just an issue in terms of reporting.
So Florio was on WDAE. I'm listening to it on the way in, and he's like, I've heard this, I've heard that. It's all circumstantial evidence. He goes, it's like when you wake up in the morning and you see snow in your car, but you didn't see the snow because you were sleeping. I'm like, are you really comparing this rift to an overnight snowstorm? What are you doing? So it's just something that, we pride ourselves here at not doing, and, it's going to happen throughout the media. And, as John put so eloquently the other day in his article about it, about not going for clicks, or I think it was a tweet. I don't know. You did a great job, though.
I don't remember what you're talking about, but thank you. But no, I think somebody said it really well in the chat. Like, it is kind of a shame. Like, we do have to talk about these things, obviously, because it's out there. I hope to. Last night I was like, we could probably just avoid all this in the show tomorrow. Then today it's like people are talking, even though they're dismissing it, they're talking about it. So we talk about it and dismiss it. But like, I do think it's important to turn our attention to Todd Bowles now, as people are saying in the chat, and just talk about kind of like what we expect from him. Matt, you grew up a Jets fan, and you were obviously a Jets fan during the Todd Bowles days there. And yeah, his record wasn't great, obviously, but his quarterbacks that he went through there it's pretty abysmal group. I know you put out a tweet, I think, or you retweeted something or shared something just about the quarterbacks that he had in New York with the Jets, and it's obviously pretty rough group. Want to know what Geno Smith there, shout out. But just, I don't know, what do you think about Bowles? You followed him closely, obviously, during those times. What do you feel about him as a leader and the media interactions, and how do you think things are going to be different? I mean, you talk about New York to Tampa Bay, way better team and a way better culture, and it's a very different thing. It is hard to make that one comparison with him because of how many things are already in place that are rare for a head coach going to a new situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think Todd Bowles is a really good coach. It obviously didn't work out with the Jets, but it hasn't worked out for the Jets since 1969 when they won the Super Bowl. So, I don't really put that on Todd Bowles too much. He was the coach from 2015 to 2018. I think it's very important too to look at, because there's so much non-success there. His best year coaching the Jets was his first year. They went 10-6. They missed the playoffs because they lost in the last week of the season to the Buffalo Bills when Ryan Fitzpatrick threw an interception at the goal line. And of course, your freaking Steelers got in because the Jets lost. But anyway,
I remember where I was during the game.
Yeah, so the quarterbacks, of course, that he dealt with, Fitz, which he had the Fitz magic that first year when they went 10-6, and then Fitz tragic the next year. He had Bryce Petty for a little bit, I believe, like Greg McElroy. Geno was in there too. So I think really for Bowles, and he kind of spoke about it in his press conference today too. He's like, good players make you good, make you a good coach. Mm-hmm. And the Bucs, the Jets, certainly they had some talent on both sides of the ball. But he never really had that quarterback. I think that's obvious. Now he has Tom Brady. But he never really had a full offense that he could put together. Maybe part of that on Bowles is that he never really got the right type of offensive coordinator for this offense. That first year, again, when they went 10-6, you got the good part of Fitz, but you also had Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, which was a pretty good offense at that time. Some good running backs as well. Chris Ivory made the Pro Bowl the next year, so there were pieces there
about that.
I was just saying,
Chris Ivory in the Pro Bowl,
wow.
Insane. But he had the pieces there defensively. So some stats I want to put out to you. Again, this is the year when they went 10-6, first year under Todd Bowles. Their defense, 318.6 yards per game. That was fourth best in the NFL. Their run game was 13th. Their passing game was 13th in the league, 235 yards. This will come as no shock at all whatsoever. They were second in run stoppage with 83.4 yards per game, and they allowed 19.6 points per game, which was ninth best in the league. So we're still talking about top 10. So he had the pieces there on defense. He had Muhammad Wilkerson up front. He had Sheldon Richardson. Again, younger in his career when he was a way better player. Yeah. He had Terrell Owens coming to his second stint with the Jets. He had 6 interceptions that year. So Reeves is still playing at a high level before he really started breaking down. But I think so. Todd still had a great defense.
Calvin Pryor. He had some
Calvin Pryor was so.
But outside linebacker.
He had like
6, 7 sacks that
year.
He
had the last year of Demario Davis. Actually, he had 2 years of Demario Davis, but Davis had his last year with the Jets. Then he went to Cleveland. Then he came back to the Jets before he went to the Saints. So solid middle linebackers. But something that the Bucs are giving him that he never really had with the Jets at all is an outside pass rusher. Obviously you have that with Shaq Barrett. They're hoping Joe Tryon-Tranquil will be that. That's something he never had in New York. And then after that first season, really the issue, again, not necessarily with Bowles, but, these talented players that they had, they really started to break down a little bit more. And then the offense couldn't score. I mean, the Jets would lose games 40-17. So I think he never really had that stout offense that he wanted outside of his first year as a head coach, which really hurt him. That clearly won't be the issue here with Tampa Bay. And he's always been a great defensive-minded coach. So in terms of
he'll keep calling the defense, he said today.
Yeah, he's going to keep calling the defense. Bowles, when he was the Jets head coach too, he got questioned a lot for his time management in certain moments when he would call timeouts. I don't necessarily know that that's going to plague him here with the Bucs. I mean, Bruce Arians had a couple of questionable timeouts during his tenure. Andy Reid is historically been horrible when it comes to timeouts, and he's a Super Bowl winning coach. So I don't think that's the end all be all for his, for how it's going.
Mike Tomlin is probably all time bad at it,
right?
I mean, just unbelievable.
So I just think Bowles, he's in a position now. He has a much better offense than he ever had. He's still a great defensive coach, despite the last play against the Rams. He has so many better players here with the Bucs than he ever had with the Jets. So.
And it's just a better organization too. I mean, he mentioned that too. Bruce kind of told him, "Hey, you never know what you're gonna get into when you leave here." And he brought that kind of up as well when he was on the podium talking. I think that here you have an organization where they're going to support you. You're in a much better situation than New York. No offense, it's just toxic.
I just think the Jets never found sure, there's questions about ownership with the Jets, but I think they never really found the right general manager too. In terms, they had McCagnon, and then McCagnon got out of there. Yeah. So I think that
makes it so different. It just does. Like when the culture's in place, when the GM is in place that has consistently over the last 5 years added talent and basically only had bangers in free agency and the draft, like just only, just hasn't missed for years to essentially like it just changes everything. Yeah. And you have a
John,
those are like the most important things.
That was the key too. A lot of bad drafts when Bowles was there. They never really had players that developed too much. I remember Lorenzo Malden was like a third round guy. Yeah, third round guy. Lorenzo, everyone's like, oh, he's got a high motor. He could be like a future pass rusher. It just never worked out. And they weren't really able to develop a lot of defensive players. So they relied on veterans they had. And then when they started breaking down, it was, it was a snowball effect. Everything rolled downhill. And then,
it will be fascinating. I really don't, like I said, this year, I don't know how much it changes. First, I don't know the Bulls is going to have like this huge input on the draft. Sounds like Bruce Arians said he's done the most draft work he's ever done, and he's going to be a part of the draft, at least decision making, which he's always been a part of. He's always been involved in that process. But Jason obviously is going to run that part of it, and that's probably his biggest strength. Just naturally, he relies, he works with other people for other aspects, but he's a great strength in terms of drafting and acquiring players. So like Bulls isn't going to have to necessarily do a ton of that this year, especially. Like I said, the players are in place, the leaders are in place, the quarterback's in place. This year, I just don't know that we're going to see a huge ripple effect. Long term, this becomes really interesting to me, and I'm not going to predict anyone's failure or anything like that. I do think, and I've said and gone on the record just in general, and I think it's only fair for me to now apply it specifically to the Bucs situation. It is difficult to build a long-term winner with a defensive-minded head coach. Not because I think defensive-minded head coaches can't be good leaders at all. That's not at all the point. I think it's hard because offense is the most consistent thing year to year in the NFL. We have tons of numbers that show us offense is more sustainable year to year, and especially great offense is more sustainable year to year than great defense, because great defense, there's a lot of variance on it depending on execution of offense. A lot of good defenses are boosted by bad offensive play that they face. The Bucs this year faced some of the worst offenses in the NFL, and as a result, they were in top 5 DVOA, I believe, for defense this season, top 5, top 7, like that. But they faced the worst slate of passing attacks in the NFL this season. This upcoming year, that won't be the case, and they'll be healthier, so we'll see what happens. But it just, the variability of what you face on the other side of the ball, especially the quarterback position, along with other things, changes a lot for defense. So I say that just because if you have an offensive minded head coach, an offensive oriented head coach, your offense is going to have more stability and consistency year to year, which is the more sustainable side of the football in the NFL. If you don't have that, your offense is good, your offense coordinator is probably going to get hired as a head coach somewhere else. Or you're in this situation with the Bucs specifically, your quarterback will probably eventually retire or maybe leave after this year, whatever. We'll see what happens. But those are all kind of plausible outcomes for the situation. And, there is this scenario where he just keeps nailing the offensive coordinator hire, like Tennessee, although they haven't really made it that far in the playoffs, I see, and I don't think anybody really sees them as a Super Bowl contender. They were the 1 seed in the AFC this year, shouts, and they've lost 2 offensive coordinators now and to head coaching jobs, and they continue to hire good offensive coordinators. Like, that's very hard to do. They've done it. They're kind of one of the few defensive-minded led teams in the league that has kind of jumped into that window and not even had an elite quarterback and been a good regular season team. And, obviously they found their limitations in the playoffs for sure. And like I said, I don't know if anybody considers them a true contender, but even if you look NFC side, like it's almost all offensive minded head coaches in the NFC, like that are succeeding right now. Just is. And a lot of that is because when you have a defensive minded head coach, not most people weren't like Belichick, who had basically McDaniels come back to him then after being with him for forever and just kind of had great offense and stability there because he kept not taking other jobs or not getting interviews after the Colts thing. Like it was just this unbelievable amount of stability that rarely do defensive minded head coaches keep that amount of stability in place. And so unique situations are exceptions, but like Mike Tomlin's a great example. Like Steelers haven't won a postseason game in forever. And a big part of it is he can't nail the OC hire. Like, and the quarterback situation obviously has declined as well, but he can't nail the OC hire. And he's a defensive minded head coach and he keeps hiring guys and they're not good or they're not good enough. And he's gone through, 2 now, Canada's staying and he's bad. And so it's this kind of, it's so important to have a great offensive scheme and quarterback relationship and quarterback assessment and be able to get the most out of a quarterback from whoever your offensive minded guy is. And that relationship is so important that if you don't have the OC and you don't have the quarterback, you don't have the play calling, you don't have the quarterback, it really doesn't matter. And Bowles found that out in New York, right? Like it really didn't matter. He had good defenses and it just really didn't matter. Like they just,
if you can't score, you're screwed. I think even the Bucs, I think Bucs fans would know that too, going back to the year before they won the Super Bowl. Right. They shut down the Rams, the greatest show on turf, and they couldn't score. So
right. And so long-term, what is Bowles going to do offensively? Like when Brady's gone and when Leftwich are gone, which will happen eventually with one or probably both. Yeah, it could be next year. We have no idea, but what is going to happen? What is he going to move to? Will he promote from within? And if he does, will he keep Arians' system? Will he let that guy just do his thing on that side of the ball? Will it stay the same? Will he hire somebody from the outside? Will it be a more conservative approach? Some defensive minded guys tend toward a more conservative approach. He's very aggressive on defense, so maybe he won't. I don't know. But there, he didn't have quarterbacks in New York. So even if we wanted to glean something from that, we really can't glean a lot from that. How involved will he ever be on that side of the ball? There are just lots of questions. What will he
take guys with him that he wants to promote?
How will he assess the quarterback position moving forward for the future? Long term, lots of questions we just won't know the answer to. But short term, there's no reason to be discouraged. This seems like it was the right move. You're in a Super Bowl now window. He's probably the best option here, Goodwin, in my opinion. And Bowles has done it before, and I do think that will help him short term. So long way to go to fully assess the move. Definitely not trying to totally downplay it, just something to think about in terms of which side of the ball offers a little bit more stability in those situations. So it's good stuff. It's good thoughts just across the board. It's been a bittersweet day in some ways, but it's also kind of exciting, and it's going to be fun to see kind of where this thing goes long term, I think, because obviously the Bucs have a chance to do something special this year. The Rams signed Bobby Wagner today. Yeah, he's gonna be 32 this summer. They signed him for pretty decent money. I don't know that helps them as much as some people are gonna think. And I don't know that Allen Robinson helps them as much as people think. I mean, they lost Robert Woods, they lost OBJ. Like this is a totally different team. I mean, Von Miller, Andrew Whitworth. There's just a lot of big losses for this team. Darius Williams starting quarter. There's just a lot. And they're supposed to be the next best team in the NFC. It's going to be a great opportunity for the Bucs this year to maximize another chance to win a Super Bowl. And Bowles, could capitalize on that and could continue to build a winner after that too. So it's a rare opportunity for a first-year head coach to be able to step into a situation like this. And Bruce recognized that. And I think we should all obviously commend him greatly for that move and that selflessness for sure.
Speaking of signings and wide receivers, I don't know if you guys heard the news, but Terrell Owens is playing football again.
Where?
He's going to be playing in the fan-controlled football league for I don't even know what city they're located in, but the Zappers, and none other than Johnny Football is going to be his quarterback. So that should be interesting to see.
Wow.
Terrell Owens looks like he's in shape. So
he always looks like he'd go. He's just a specimen. 48 years old, going back to football.
Antonio Brown also wants to play, guys. He also does not understand why he's not being offered major contracts. Russell Gage money.
He's pulling the Shaquille O'Neal, and I love Shaq. But Shaq had that line, I got hurt on company time, so I'll rehab on company time.
He's doing that too.
That's what AB is doing.
He is the epitome of that. You seen that meme? I don't know what show it's from, honestly. So it's probably a famous show, and I'm going to sound dumb saying this, but that meme where the guy's like in the hot dog costume or whatever, and he's like, or is it banana costume? I forget. And he's like, we're all wondering who did this, and it's like clearly him. He's the like transgressor who did this thing, and he's like looking at the group of people, and he's like, we're all wondering who it is that did it. This is like AV. Like, he's just constantly like, how am I in this situation? Like, what is the cause of this? And meanwhile,
I think of the Eric Andre meme where he like, I don't know if you guys know who Eric Andre is, but he like shoots at something and then he's like, how is this possible?
That's
like,
right.
You did it, you idiot.
It's
exactly posting right. Pictures of themselves in Ravens jerseys too, just begging teams to sign. Look how good I look in this.
It's truly humiliating. It's such a talented player. It's just such a waste. Sad to watch, to be honest. But anyway, this was a great show, a great week of shows on the pod. We appreciate everybody jumping in here. Obviously, your super chats and your likes. Obviously, if you could give a thumbs up to the show before you leave, give us a like before you head on out. We appreciate that. Boosts our YouTube algorithm. We are closing in on 8,000 subscribers. Super excited about that, obviously. Guess what? If you're looking for something to do this weekend, head on down to PinChasers, right, Matt? This is the place. Bowling, food, and fun, especially on the weekends. They got all kinds of fun stuff going on. And Matt, is it all you can eat breakfast?
It's I know they got breakfast food. I know they
all
have
day breakfast. All day breakfast.
Yeah, it's all day. It's all day. It's all day breakfast because they have the all you can eat pizza. They have the $1 Miller Lights. They have the all you can bowl on Thursdays. Go to their website, PinChasers.net, because they have so many different deals that they're all awesome, but you almost can't keep up with them because they have different deals coming all the time. But they have multiple locations, as you can see on the screen there. Multiple spots. It's great to bring your family to. It's great for just a night out with friends, maybe go on a double date, something like that. And like I said, you can go pretty much anywhere. And another great thing too is the food is underrated. Even if you're not getting breakfast, if you're just getting regular food that you get at dinner time, they bring it right to you as well, which is like a huge luxury. You feel like you're Mr. or Mrs. VIP because the waiters and waitresses come up right to you. You order it. They bring it to you whenever the food is ready. It's very underrated, like I said. Yeah. So go to PinChasers.net, reserve a lane, book a party, have a great time. You won't be disappointed.
Absolutely.
All you can eat breakfast. I'd send out that bacon out real quick. Also, guys, if you're looking for something to do Sunday, most likely, and I'll tweet it out, JC Allen NFL. I'm going to do another one of these Twitter Spaces mock draft. Last week, me and Josh Capo, and you never know who's going to pop on. I saw John.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that today.
I know we were. So
Bruce Arians news scrapped it.
We'll do a mock sim on the Twitter Spaces. So just follow me if you're not. And I always encourage people to come up on stage and help make the pick. We had like 4 or 5 people
virtual
up on stage, and it was a lot of fun. So look for that on my tweets, and we'll schedule that probably on Sunday. Yeah, it's great stuff. Great stuff. We'll move back into draft mode next week. I promise. Like we will get. Yesterday we had a great conversation about the wide receivers in this class, so make sure y'all check it out. But we appreciate everybody jumping in and giving their thoughts and opinions on all this stuff, and listening to us give our thoughts and opinions as well. We always appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and we'll catch you again next week on the Pewter Report podcast. Out. Enjoy WrestleMania.